So, having multiple different playable characters isn't anything new in the gaming industry of sorts. It's something we've been doing for a while. Hello.
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 I'm player 2. I'm definitely as interesting as player 1, and I'm definitely not a last-minute addition.
It's good. Oh, so you're the one focused now. It's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you're that
I'm
much.
definitely as interesting as player 1.
Exactly.
I said this already.
So
I'm also not a last-minute addition. Did I mention that?
It may not be the most common gameplay mechanic, but we've been swapping between characters for a while now. From Resident Evil to Donkey Kong 64, we've been jumping around as different people, shooting things, platforming on different things. It's been around for a while now, and he's off again.
A perfect modern example of this is The Last of Us Part 2, or an older example would be the early LEGO games. They both take a very different approach to multiple playable characters, but they both do a good job in their own way. And it's a good way to immediately add some more gameplay diversity and just make things a little bit fresher than they would normally be.
So what if you have a game that's the third in its series but shares a lot of similarities to the first two? How do you keep your fans entertained and playing for a reasonable amount of time? Well, you add multiple playable characters. It's an immediate way to add freshness and keep those players happy and ignore the fact they are playing the game for a third time now, basically. It's basically like, there isn't...
Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me.
No,
I'll
excuse
just,
me.
What am I supposed to say?
You're supposed to
But
say...
how successful is that
yeah,
really?
Yeah, then I say, does it
Then you
make
say-
the game triply fun, or does it cause there to be triple the trouble?
That sentence didn't really work, Chester. Script it better.
It's the title of the video.
Get your, I don't care. Get your laptop, delete that line, type it better. Triple leaf, what is that?
Well, it's a word.
Yeah, I know it's a word, but it's not a good word.
Triple E.
It should be better.
This is the third part in my review series of all the Harry Potter games, leading up to the release of Hogwarts Legacy, aka the only game other than Persona 6 I am excited for in any way. I'm just so excited to review Quidditch World Cup. It's gonna be a great time. Like, favorite, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, third in the series, yada yada. So the game was developed by EA Brightlight, the same developers of Chambers of Secrets and all the mainline console Harry Potter games moving forwards. So something I found was actually pretty interesting was that on Wikipedia and in my previous video, apparently says that Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was developed by Eurocom, but other information I found has said that EA Brightlight was the developer of that, and I'm not 100% sure. The DNA is completely still there, so it's obviously made by the same people. Like, hell, they made the same mistakes. It's clearly made by the same people, but it says that it's not made by Eurocom, like the third one isn't made by Eurocom, but the second one is, apparently. I'm not sure if this is an issue on Wikipedia or other sources I found. When you start the game up in Chamber of Secrets, it doesn't have the Eurocom name anywhere that I can see, so I'm not 100% sure. Doesn't really matter. Whoever it is, whoever made Chamber of Secrets also made Prisoner of Azkaban. It's very clear to see. But whether it was made by EA Brightlight or Eurocom, the information out there seems to be kind of inconclusive, so we'll just carry on as we are. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure who the actual developer was, but it is quite clear that it was the same people across both games. And I am led to believe it is Brightlight due to the fact that they are credited with the rest of the series, so it only makes sense. The DNA of Chamber of Secrets runs extremely strongly through this game, but something that I found rather interesting was the fact that these two games run on entirely different game engines. Chamber of Secrets runs on something called B-Render, while Prisoner of Azkaban used Renderware, a much more well-known game engine that has been used for heaps of games, being utilised well into the 2010s, but is most well known for being incredibly important in the PS2 era. At first, this was a bit of a shock considering how similar these games feel. Hell, main issues I had with Chamber of Secrets are still here, like the really shoddy movement, but this game has been made on an entirely different engine, And as you start to pay more attention, that fact becomes hugely more noticeable. Its biggest change is the inclusion of having 3 playable characters this time around. Now, if I don't talk about something or you think I've missed anything in this video, make sure to watch the first 2 reviews in this series. They're pretty short, but considering this and Chamber are so similar, I don't see the point in talking about stuff that either hasn't changed or is simply lifted from Chamber of Secrets. So just make sure to watch those videos. Links in the description or in that little top thing in the right hand corner of the screen. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you got it. Prisoner of Azkaban, in my humble opinion, is just about the best story J.K. Rowling has ever penned. This includes all of Harry Potter and her Cormoran Strike detective series. If there's other stuff, I don't know, I haven't read them. I believe it finds that perfect middle ground between childish and mature. A book for kids and adults, funny and scary. It reaches that point where all great fairy tales reach. That perfect mixture of whimsical joy and palatable tension, pressure and darkness. It was an incredibly important book as it saw the transition from the more child-orientated adventure and mystery books into the young adult genre. I also loved it because it has next to nothing to do with Lord Voldemort, a character and villain even as a kid I had no real interest in, and it gave us the Marauders, and a bit of a look behind the curtain at Harry's dad in a more interesting way. Also, Sirius and Remus are my 2 favourite characters out of the entire book series, so of course I'm going to like this book more. Now, in recent years, we've seen a lot of video essay channels talk about the 3rd movie, and while I strongly dislike nearly all film video essay channels, except Every Frame of Painting, because they're, of course, amazing, this is a point I do actually agree with. The 3rd movie is undoubtedly best in its series. The movie and the book did an absolutely fantastic job of exploring the ideas of isolation as well, as Harry begins to grow in his feelings of separation from his friends and classmates as the weight of responsibility grows on his shoulders. Themes and ideas that would become core to the later books. So what does this game do to capture all that fantastic tone, presentation, story, characters, and more mature content? They made a G-rated game where you can swap between 3 playable characters with some of the worst writing I have ever heard in my life.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I can't stress how mind-numbing the storytelling is in this game. Every story point, every scene and every line of dialogue has been stripped of any charm or complexity and functions only to push the stripped-down story forward in the most bare-bones way. Gee, I can't believe Sirius Black, the renowned murderer of 13 people, has escaped. Man, he sounds real dangerous. Hope he doesn't turn up at Hogwarts, wink wink, nudge nudge, haha. Shush Ron, don't wake up from his slumber. Our new defense against the dark arts teacher, Professor Remus Lupin, this mysterious figure who may or may not be a werewolf. Okay, this is a joke, but seriously, this is only slightly different to how they actually talk. It just drove me insane, especially considering that this game is around 8 hours long, okay? Meaning it's nearly 4 times longer, than the movie was. They have the time to put in proper dialogue that doesn't just bash you over the head with information, or, put in useful dialogue during dungeons. That would help too, instead of, you're going the wrong way. Harry, you're going the wrong way. We've got to find the ingredients for Snape. Silence, Ronald. Okay, so take this from someone who has been making short films for a decade now. And, game scripts and movie scripts are quite different, but storytelling has, specific rules to it. And when that is, every line of dialogue, no matter when it is being used or for what purpose it serves, can and should always push the greater narrative, character growth, or the smaller personal narratives. If it doesn't do any of those things in some way, shape, or form, it shouldn't be in the script. I won't hang around on this point for too long as this video is built around the switching mechanic, but I've said this in nearly every Harry Potter review at this point, but seriously, kids deserve so much better than this. And let me also point out the fact that the story in the game is so poorly explained that you literally need to at least have seen the movie to understand what's going on. So for any of the kids who are, too young to, have seen the movie, as a standalone adaptation, it just doesn't function. Like, you failed your core audience, which literally on the box it says 3+. You failed any of those kids who haven't seen the movie or read the book because the story doesn't make sense.
Harry discovered that the black dog was in fact Sirius Black, and that Black had not been trying to murder him, but had in fact been hunting down Peter Pettigrew, the man that had truly betrayed Harry's parents to Lord Voldemort.
No! You can go to Azkaban.
Well, that was abrupt. So, who's Peter? What relationship do any of these people have with Harry's dad? I'm also, out of script, I cannot for the life of me. I played this game over like 2 days. I do not remember at any point them ever saying that Sirius Black betrayed Harry's dad or parents or anything like that. I don't believe that was ever a discussion that happened in the version of the game I was playing. Now, I may have missed it, but if I missed it, there's a major key story point to miss because I was like zoned out for half a second, okay? When it's so core to the story, maybe that's a story point you bring up a few times so someone can't miss it if they zoned out for 10 seconds playing. It blows my mind. Once again, a game made for +3 children, so maybe bringing up these points a few times, if you do it at all, could be helpful, for them. Yet they bring it up here at the end. That it just... my brain is melting. It's going. Yeah. The inclusion of Stephen Fry helps as always, but every line of dialogue, every cutscene just feels like you've taken a paragraph from the wiki plot breakdown rather than craft a script that actually gives you the story in a way humans might actually talk. It is so painful.
As they marched Pettigrew to Hogwarts, the full moon rose, and Professor Lupin transformed into a werewolf.
Thanks, I hate it. So yeah, story-wise, the game fails in just about every way, missing out huge scenes from the book and the movie, like the night bus, and instead adding scenes like Ron luring Harry down into the dungeon, but oh, surprise, it was Malfoy all along! Now you've got to do another dungeon. Why? Why did you do this to me, EA? Now, the story aspect may be a bit of a dumpster fire, but what about the gameplay? The main reason we play video games. Well, it's for the most part unchanged from Chamber of Secrets. You run around the now fully explorable Hogwarts, which, might I say, is absolutely fantastic. It often felt incredibly roughly put together. For instance, why is the grass pizza slices? It felt like I was boundary breaking to get into some areas, but I was actually able to run around all of the grounds of Hogwarts without any loading screens, and it felt great. You also have stuff to actually do around Hogwarts, which is nice. There's a notice board with a bunch of stuff to do on it, and you're also encouraged to explore to find ingredients for Snape's classes in the actual story. You can also fly Buckbeak all over the grounds, which is so much fun. You attend different lessons and complete missions in a day cycle, which is still a fun way of presenting missions. You complete a series of dungeons where you get a spell and then use that spell to complete puzzles and whatnot. The biggest difference from the previous game is the ability to switch between Harry, Ron and Hermione at nearly any point of the game, unless one of them isn't a part of the mission, obviously. Each character is given different spells and some abilities to make them a little bit more unique and to make you switch between them to complete puzzles. Harry, for whatever reason, is the only one who can jump between large gaps, climb up ropes, he can call Hedwig and can use the Patronus towards the end of the game. Ron is ginger and can do some other stuff too, I guess. Hermione can slip into small spaces, can use an ice and fire spell, and can reverse time on broken objects. They each have other things they can do, of course. Ron can actually do a few things, but I mean, who cares?
I love tea. Damn. I wish I had a playable character who was skilled at this particular activity. Damn. I wish I had a character who was skilled at this particular... You see, the thing is, done poorly, having multiple playable characters can start to feel like a major drag and feel like they're just spreading the load across 3 characters, what would have could just been like 1 character, and it feels like they're just padding out and taking what was a 4-hour game and turning it into an 8-hour game. And you just wish you had 1 playable character that could just do everything.
Now, this is a good idea. Multiple player characters, each with different skills and abilities, that make playing as a group more fun because the puzzles can be more sprawling, and also playing as individual characters can be more interesting because segments can be completely designed with that character in mind. For instance, one of the best moments of the game, except it got ruined by some glaring issues with unresolved stuff from Chamber of Secrets, is the part where Harry is trapped in a room with the Boggart. He needs to slingshot himself around this room from platform to platform to get to these different switches to open the door. This is a segment that wouldn't really work with the 3 other playable characters for the reason that they don't have the spell, and only works because of Harry's individual mechanics. aka the fact he has the spell. This is the best example of their mechanic working, is the fact that just one of them doesn't have the spell. Ignoring that, moving on. This is about the only way they could get around the fact that this game, without the changing character stuff, is way too similar to the previous ones to get a pass. If it wasn't for this main change, it was a bit too similar. But where this all falls apart is the core issues that they didn't resolve from Chamber of Secrets, which just drags down the entire experience. And that's not even talking about how, many opportunities and cool ideas they left on the board when it came to the actual changing of mechanics. But anyway, firstly, the issues left over from Chamber of Secrets. The controls of these games have been some of my biggest concerns from the start. I have so many buttons on this PS2 controller, but the game refuses to use more than half of them, and it becomes very frustrating. I can only have 2 spells selected at once, which is fine early game, but to the point you are constantly switching them out, and then times that by 3, as you have to be doing that for 3 characters, it becomes very tedious, especially when I have the directional buttons right there that you could have used. Circle is now reserved for cycling through characters. Get ready to press that all the time by accident, in the middle of fights or while you're just trying to pick something up. Not having enough buttons for spells has been an issue for a while now with the previous games, but it's been dialed up to 11 now by making you constantly having to switch them, and also having multiple characters, it's a pain. Also having to cycle through the characters gets even more tedious when you accidentally press it, meaning you have to keep pressing it to cycle through to get back to the character you need. This is a simple fix, and blows my mind that they didn't do this. Use the directional buttons for switching characters. Please use it. Up is Harry, left is Hermione, right is Ron. Simple, no more accidental switches, and if you do, you don't need to cycle through characters to get to the one you need. Now, use O as a 3rd spell slot. I'd say giving us a 3rd option would cut down on spell swapping hugely, meaning we need to access the menus less, meaning we can be more immersed in solving the dungeons, which for the most part are really good. They're just hampered by these issues. And I feel like keeping players in the game is something a developer would probably be more keen on. We then have X as the interact button, and then 3 spell slots. No more accidental switching between characters, greatly reducing the amount of spell swapping and just cutting out all of the fat and making the gameplay experience way more fluid. This has been an issue since Chambers, and there is literally no excuse for fixing at least the issues from Chambers, as they have literally jumped to an entire new engine. This is just a bad design choice, and it's stuck around for 2 whole games now. I'm not bringing up Philosopher for the reason that this company didn't develop that game, so it doesn't really fit. And yes, it's a tie-in game, they probably didn't have heaps of time, and probably didn't have heaps of money, but these are issues reviewers would have talked about, and they aren't massive design or fundamental changes. They're just button inputs, and things that I feel like should be pretty easy to change. These are issues that just ground the whole experience to a halt for me. The next issue that still hasn't been fixed is the janky movement. Getting on the right side of a box to push it, getting through a small door, stopping in time before a troll can see you, jumping instead of grabbing the edge. The movement isn't anywhere near as crisp or as smooth as it really should be. It feels almost a step away from tank controls at time, which isn't a great comparison. The controls aren't terrible, but really start to get on your nerves by about halfway through the game and are quite painful by the end. This then, partnered with the animations, can just make gameplay and moving around difficult at times. The animation in this game can often blow me away though. The game on a visual level is extremely impressive. Facial animations are a step up, movement in cutscenes is a step up, the lighting and shadows is honestly closer to what I'd expect from an early Xbox 360 game, especially on the Hogwarts Express. Now, the resolution, isn't what you would expect from an Xbox 360 game, but the lighting is pretty good. The visuals of this game is really its strong point, literally. Utilizing its more cartoony design choices, but then doing a fantastic job on lighting and visual effects, it gives it a really good, moody atmosphere. In-game animations are also a step up, like when Harry falls into water and respawns, he'll put his hand on his nose and blow to clear out his ears. With the extra ability to explore, the visuals, and the ability to fly on Buckbeak, I'd say this is easily the most impressive PS2 game I've ever played. But it can get caught up on its own animations. They get a little excessive. Knockdown animations, picking up blocks, opening doors, casting spells, sneaking, throwing things. All of these animations are good, but simply go for too long. They really begin to drag the experience, and when you realize that this game is in some desperate need of some invincibility frames, oh boy, you can get hit over and over again with no ability to escape because the invincibility frames seem to go for about the same amount of time as the animations of you getting up, meaning you're gonna get trapped in some corners with 3 guys hitting you and no way to get out. For those that don't know, invincibility frames are the frames where your character can't be hit again after being hit. These exist to stop characters from just insta-dying when they go up against a few enemies. This game doesn't really have them, and you are basically always going up against groups of enemies, meaning if you get hit once, you're almost certainly going to get hit again as you get up, making you fall back down, making the animation issue way more apparent. Now this could have just been resolved by, adding a few more frames of invincibility or allowing you to dodge with a single button press. You can do a dodge if you're locked on, but it's annoying and difficult to do. If you could just do a quick roll, which has invincibility frames for the roll, to get away from enemies, that would help a lot. This all culminates in a level that should have been a highlight of the game, but very quickly became maddening. Harry getting the Patronus. You walk into a large room with basically a chessboard of platforms before you. There are large gaps between them so you can't jump, but there are statues on them that you can basically hook onto and basically fling yourself onto them with a specific spell. There are 4 buttons on each corner of the room that you need to get to. The statues you hook onto are constantly popping up and then disappearing, so you have to move around in a pattern to get to where you need to go. You walk out and are about to get started when the boggart comes up behind you as a Dementor, so now you have an enemy slowly following you as you platform. My immediate thought was, oh, that's so cool, it's now given me an actual danger and a reason to do this quickly. I love that. It's taken away the other 2 characters, so I don't need to worry about accidentally switching characters. I'm only using 1 spell because I can't fight the enemy yet, so I don't need to worry about swapping spells. This has removed most of the game's funky elements. This is going to be great.
It wasn't.
The issue of animation and movement then just slaps you right in the face. The animation of swinging from one statue to the other is so long that the Dementor is basically always on top of you. You can't create a safety cushion of space. He's just always on you. Also, when you activate the swinging animation, the program clearly has already positioned your character on that other platform, but you need to complete the animation, so you can't see it yet because you're still in your animation going over there. This would be fine if you didn't have an enemy that is following you, meaning there are stages where you are hooking on to go to the new platform and the Dementor moves past you to go to the platform you were going for because it already sees you as being there even though you've only just started the animation. You literally can't get further than 1 platform away from it at any given moment. Then you need to factor in the whole thing that you need to be close to the edge of each small platform to do the swing. Then the movement rears its head. You are constantly slipping off the platform and grabbing onto the edge and having to pull yourself up, meaning you need to sit through another animation while the Dementor gets even closer.
I love biscuits. If I could just... These animations would hurry up. I'd love to have one.
Now you have to deal with the Dementor's attack, which is a very slow animation where you need to wiggle the joysticks. This is another slow attack which takes off a tiny amount of your health, and he's always a foot behind you, so get prepared to keep doing this and keep seeing this animation. Also, those little statues keep disappearing, so you have to make large detours to get to different switches, meaning more slow animations and more Dementor attacks. A really awesome segment that could have literally made the game for me became an absolute slog. These aren't huge issues. It's issues of button placement, not having a third spell slot, movement not being tight enough, and animations being too long. But this game is a good example because these issues would have been pointed out in reviews at the time when the second game released. They moved to an entirely different game engine, yet they didn't fix the issues from before and instead created a whole new issue for themselves. 3 playable characters. Having multiple playable characters is a way to immediately give an experience some freshness, but can become incredibly infuriating when it's done like this. Rather than just giving us one character who can do everything, have all the spells, jump gaps and squeeze through small areas and, be ginger, they split all these things up amongst each character, but only half commit to it. Levels only loosely support having multiple characters. For instance, segments like standing on multiple switches or picking up something heavy. But other than that, which might I say is some of the laziest type of level design, the only reason you switch characters is to use different spells. Which is annoying if you're a fan of the series and played the second game where you have all the spells and can do everything. Yes, it made the spell switching even more annoying, but at least, you could have all the spells and you weren't swapping spells for 3 characters. As far as I can remember, just about all the boss battles you can literally play as one character. For the sneaking sections, you play as one character. The game itself only half commits to having multiple characters because they're basically just the same character with different models and different spells. They don't have enough differences, they don't have things they're bad at, they have their different spells. Harry can jump and climb, Hermione can squeeze through small spaces, Ron can throw dung bombs, but those are so minor and are used so rarely. Like, Harry only called Hedwig a max of 3 times in 8 hours, and Hermione only crawled through a small space like twice, and Ron's dung bombs were only directly useful in one sneaking segment. Why not have it that Harry can climb and jump and all that, but can't swim, and can't sneak because he doesn't have his cloak, making him more of a brawler type of thing. Hermione can squeeze through small spaces and sneak in stealthy areas, but can't use the attack spell, making her more of a puzzle and sneaking focused character. Ron can find hidden items but can't sneak, he can swim though, and he can see prefects through walls or something like that. Give characters pluses and minuses to make them feel like they aren't just reskins. Picking one character over another should feel like an actual choice. Levels should be designed with more split paths, some leading to loot, others not, making you switch characters for gameplay reasons, outside of, I need this spell. This is the stuff the game needs to commit to do the whole split character stuff. If you want a good but very simple version of this, Battle for Bikini Bottom has 3 playable characters, all with things they can and can't do, bosses only they can defeat, and levels only they can do. It's not, unheard of. It's very practical and isn't a crazy thing to expect from a game with playable characters. But yeah, the way it currently is just makes the whole switching between character stuff feel like an absolute chore, and it's really frustrating. I am interested though to see where they take the whole multiple character mechanic, as from what I know, it's incredibly core to the 4th game. I hope they actually treat it like a core mechanic and not like this, which feels like a last minute addition, and a real missed opportunity. As an example of this, all the previous titles had a boss battle to end off the game. This one doesn't really. It has a dumb scene with the Dementors where you have to spam one spell, but it isn't really a boss battle. It's so short and incredibly hard to fail. There aren't multiple phases, it's just a playable cutscene basically, especially compared to the whole basilisk fight from the previous game. What this game has instead is a final level of sorts, battling through the underground tunnel to get to the Shrieking Shack. This is actually a really dope idea, as what better way to show the importance of the switching characters than to make that the final boss, utilizing all the spells we've collected and skills we've learnt, and to make that one single level, and that's the boss battle. Problem is, due to story reasons, Ron can't be there, so for obvious reasons we can only use Hermione and Harry, which shoots the idea of a level to showcase the switching mechanic in the gut, we can't use a third of the spells we've collected. This is a core mechanic of the game, and we don't even use it to its full capability in the last hour of the game. It's really disappointing. Now, I definitely don't hate this game. I think it's a huge step in the right direction from the previous title. The visuals are a great improvement. Also, something I really enjoyed was Fred and George's shop. The stealthing has been improved hugely and also greatly reduced from the last one, which is fantastic. The implementation of 3 playable characters was a good idea to try and diversify gameplay. It just came too late and wasn't implemented well enough, and it's not terrible. It does give the game a bit of freshness when it needs it, it's just not great. The ability to explore Hogwarts so fully was a real joy. Flying Buckbeak never got tiring, and it is so much better than the brooms from before. And you only have to do the whole ring challenge thing once. There's no Quidditch or anything like that. Oh, it's so much better. Searching for Snape's ingredients was actually heaps of fun. The dungeons felt distinct and different enough from each other, so they didn't just feel like you were running around in the same areas, which was extremely boring in the last game. The controls are mostly the same, but you aren't given the impossible platforming like you were in Chamber. People who watch my streams will know the amount I have grey hairs because of one segment in that game. Oh my god. These are big improvements. I really just feel like this style of game is getting really tired by its third version. Not enough has changed or evolved, and I'm basically doing the same thing I was in Philosopher's Stone. And the one main gameplay change didn't really help with the core issues that have been apparent for a while now. So yeah, when you're on your third game in a series and don't fix the issues from the first 2 and implement a whole new issue, you're gonna have triple the amount of trouble. Thank you so much for watching this video on Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the game on PS2. I'll be streaming my playthrough of the 4th game, so make sure you subscribe to get all the notifications of that business when it happens, and you can also check out my 2 previous reviews of the 2 previous games on the channel now and in the end screen in just a second. Now, before I go, let me know in the comments, what's your actual favorite game with multiple playable characters? Personally, I'd have to say Nier Automata, as I'd argue that's just about the best way you can do that mechanic, but I'd love to hear from you too. Anyway, catch you next time. Bye-bye. Mwah.